Hello, welcome to Good Grief. Before we get into this week's episode officially, we just finished recording kind of our first section and realized that my microphone wasn't turned on. So we always do a sound check. And for some reason, we did the sound check and just thought maybe mine sounded a little more quiet, but we just kept rolling with it. So the first half of this, you can hear me clearly.
Yeah, it's coming through my mic.
It's coming through Kristen's mic. But the first part until we take our first break, I will be a little bit dimmer and Kristen might be a little bit higher. So you might have to edit your volume levels as you're listening, however you're listening.
Yeah,
so I do apologize. Kristen was just like, Sarah, your mic's not on.
I literally listened to it back and I was like,
she gave me the look.
But not really. I mean, I didn't notice it at the beginning either. So.
Me either.
Anyway.
So just wanted to precursor that before the episode starts. So welcome to Good Grief.
Enjoy. Hello.
Welcome to Good Grief Podcast.
Welcome. Hello, everyone.
Yes. Thank
Welcome
you for joining us. Episode 7?
7 already?
Lucky number 7.
Oh my gosh. Welcome. Welcome to November.
Yes. We are here.
Unless you're listening to this in January. Sorry.
Yeah. I saw a thing last night or a TikTok that it was like Disney went from Halloween to Christmas overnight.
Oh.
So it was like Halloween, the parade shut down, and it was like, boop, and then it was just them putting garland up, and it was so magical.
Can you imagine the workers, like how long they're working on that?
Oh, yeah. But they probably love it.
I went to King of Prussia Mall, which is this huge mall over in the Philly area, to return something for Keith. And I walked out of one of the stores and I looked into Nordstrom and there's Christmas trees everywhere. They're playing Christmas music. And I go, it's literally the 1st of November. How is this just happened overnight?
I feel like in this time, like in this like post-COVID era, people are just like, we do whatever we want. That makes us happy.
Yeah, there's no rules.
There aren't. Like Duncan was all like Christmased out. A girl I work with was like working. She was working and she's like, oh, so I was listening to Christmas jazz. And I'm like, I could do maybe some Christmas jazz. You know?
Wow. Scooby-Doo-bop-bop-bop.
Yes, it was just like soulful, like by the fire.
Oh my gosh.
So nice. And we were just talking about Kristen has this like, how tall is your tree during Christmas? Like
it's like 12 foot?
12 foot.
Yeah.
She has this like beautiful 12-foot tree. Of course, decorate it perfectly. Mine's like, here's a candy cane. Kristen came to the house and I had a pumpkin out front. And I was like, this is my fall decor. Meanwhile, hers is like corn stalks and just beautifulness. But I said, maybe during Christmas, we should do like a little episode by your fire. By the
think
tree.
So. I think we should. Because I put too much time and effort into it for it to not be seen.
Yes. We're going to make sure a lot of people see it if you're watching. Well, let's cheers. And
cheers.
Let's get into the episode.
Cheers. Thank you,
Cheers.
Surfside.
Thank you, Surfside.
For fueling our day.
Yes. Okay, so this week's episode, we're going to discuss last week was like, now what? So we don't have the babies, nurseries, breastfeeding meeting. So now we're going to talk about kind of that. We've sort of touched on it briefly, but that's sort of going back to work and going out in public again.
Yeah, it's such a weird balance. It feels, you don't feel like you're in your body for sure.
Yes.
It's strange. It's different for everyone. It's one of those things where it's like everyone has a different experience. Everyone has a different story. Everyone has like a little tall tale to tell about the first time they went back into public or whatever. So yeah, it's super interesting. And I think we both have different experiences as well.
Yes. And we asked the question on our Instagram. So thank you. If you did respond, we'll get to that as well. Also, not sure if you guys saw the dragon.
Oh my gosh.
Just came down. I know people saw it.
Where'd you go?
Kristen got her cat like shaved and they call it the dragon.
He has a dragon cut.
And the lady who does the cat's hair TikToks herself at 4:00 every day or something. 4:00, she goes TikTok live and she highlights herself doing a cat's hair.
Yeah, she shows how to groom a cat. It's very educational.
It really is. So Kristen's cat's been chosen. He wasn't this time, but the last time. And she said she couldn't watch it because like it's kind of sad. They're just like,
they like stick them in like a sock over their ears because it like helps with their anxiety.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this cut is intricate. I thought it was just a mohawk. Like there's layers
Yeah.
to the dragon cut. So if we can steal him again, we'll have to bring him back and show
Yeah.
you. Or you just saw him.
It's pretty intense, and it's just hilarious. The last time we did a lion cut, and this time I was like, "Can you do the dragon cut?" And she was like, "If I have time." And then she ended up doing it, but I guess he didn't sit still that well.
Okay.
So we'll just keep doing the lion cut after this.
Yeah, you could never tell because it looks this one looks great.
He's a dragon.
He's a dragon. So speaking of dragons for Halloween.
Oh my gosh,
Okay.
yes.
You had your own dragon, right?
I had my own dragon.
A child.
Crew, our almost 1-year-old was a little magic dragon. He was so cute. And Otto was Joel Embiid from the 76ers. And it was just a blast.
Yes.
I mean, we've got like 3 layers to our neighborhood. And for the last couple of years, Otto's just been so small. We've just done the lower level. And it takes all night, to do that. This year, he went out with a bunch of his like neighborhood buddies. Took him 20 minutes to do the lower level. I was like, okay, I guess we're going up to tier 2,
Yes.
the next grade. So we did, and there's Rudy.
Oh yeah, there's the dragon.
And he got like halfway through tier 2, and then I was like, all right, I'm getting cold. I want to go home. So, but it was like an hour and a half of just like, I mean, they were zigzagging across. I'm like,
How
can
many
we
kids
stay
did you
on
have?
one side? So we got a picture with like at least 7 or 8 of them, but there were more together when we started.
I mean, like,
and then
how
they
many kids do you
trickled.
think came to your door?
Oh, came to our door?
Yeah,
Oh my
sorry.
gosh. I don't know. I'm not sure.
This neighborhood has a lot of kids.
It has a lot of kids. And we get a lot of people that don't have neighborhoods too, because there's like a bunch of townhomes like
apartments and
right
stuff. Yeah.
around like our area. So they kind of park in our neighborhood and they'll go around as well.
Yeah, it's
So-
a nice neighborhood. I'm sure there's some big candy bars given out.
I know for sure my friend Tara Sandora down the street, they give out
Good
regular
big ones.
size candy bars.
Yeah, those are the elite houses.
Those are the
you know.
elite. Those are the houses you hit first, so you get the good stuff.
Of course. Well, we only had like 12.
It's so
I was telling
crazy.
Kristen, like we only had like maybe a dozen, and it was just like they were maybe a little older kids too. But Penny and Bronson started. Our neighbor Bronson, they started first. She was a mini princess, and he was Jalen Hurts from the Eagles. And so we were going to all these houses, but our neighbors like it was like 5:45 or something, and we were like, let's just kind of get started at the one neighbor's house. And she had her witch costume and some like she had a spider web, and
Oh,
I was
cute.
like, are you ready for us? Like, can we come now? And she was like, yeah, come on. So
Aw.
she had like a basket of candy, so they could kind of like test it because
Yeah.
they don't really remember last year. They just
No.
went to like Deb's house up the street
Yeah,
and then came back down.
right.
So this was the first year that they really were like got the concept of it.
Yeah.
But
But they're still at a good age where they're not eating a bunch of candy. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
she has no. I went through her basket because being vegan and dairy free, we did let her have like a Snickers bar. Like I'm not taking that away from her.
Sure.
But I went through her basket the next morning and took out like half the candy and replaced it with candy she can eat. She had no
Mhm.
idea.
Yeah, no clue.
There's no. It's not. It's
So next year she's gonna know because this is like the first thing that Otto's like really earned
Mhm.
himself. Like he put blood, sweat, and tears into getting this candy. So like we have it up here on the
Oh,
fridge,
Wow.
and like we're gonna have to slowly like get rid of some of it like as the weeks go on because he can't possibly eat all of it. But
No.
he knows like
He knows it's up there.
he's got the inventory of the stuff that he wants.
I actually believe that he knows
Yeah.
every single piece that's in there. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, that was Halloween.
And Penny's birthday party.
Yes, we had Penny's birthday bash on Saturday.
She's 3.
She's 3.
It's so she's so cute.
She had a great time. There were so many kids there.
There was
the
a lot of
kids are just like
kids.
multiplying at crazy rates.
Yeah.
But it was so nice. It was really hot that day, like we had mentioned. But by the time like the party started, the sun went behind the trees in our backyard.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
It was a great day.
It was a great day, and it was sprinkle theme. We had a beautiful cake.
Oh, the cake
cake
pops.
The cake was gone. The cake pops my mom and dad made fantastic.
Wait, can we talk about the cake? Did people know yet?
Oh. So a girl I work with, her mom bakes cakes, and I was like, do you think she would want to bake Penny's cake? And she was like, yeah, absolutely. And so Doug the dragon has entered the chat.
Oh, jeez.
But I was like, do you mind making the cake vegan? Like, I'm not going to tell everybody. And she was like, yeah, I can make it like gluten-free too if you want, because Doug has Lyme's disease, and gluten does like, inflame his system. So she was like, I can make it gluten-free too. And I was like, oh, So it was a vegan, gluten-free cake, and I didn't tell anybody.
And no one knew, and it was gone.
It was gone. And I did tell the people, like my cousin who has celiac, I was like, you can eat the cake.
Yeah, right.
But I was like, not telling anybody else. But everybody loved it. Somebody asked me for like the recipe. So I'm like, wow, this is great. I'm like, this isn't a Duncan Hines.
Yeah, no, it's not.
But she did like a test run before and it was too dry, the cake. Oh. So she ended up doing another one and put like I think it was like an almond milk yogurt in there.
Oh, and that's a good idea.
Creamier, like it gave it a little more moisture.
Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, so the cake was delicious.
It was good.
She got her first Nerf gun. Thank you, Auntie Sam. She got a Nerf gun.
And we were playing with it.
Oh, well, there was 4 Nerf guns in the pack, and she got an extra pack of the darts or whatever. Mm-hmm. So these Nerf guns were out, and all of a sudden I hear Otto come inside. He's like, hey, Sarah, where's the Nerf guns? And I was like...
No, I thought he just said, give me the guns.
Or maybe he might have said, like, where's the Nerf guns? And I was like, Otto, here, you can have this one. You have to take it outside. So the first thing I did when he went outside, I was like, Kristen! And she comes peeking her head out, and I pointed. And she was like, Otto, not at anybody's face. Like, I knew you were going to have to give him the spiel first. So I was like, okay, like, not in anyone's face.
No one's face. I said no faces, only the backs of their bodies.
Yes.
And the grass.
Yep. So it was good. It wasn't terrible cleanup. So
no, and everyone had a great time.
Yeah, it was a perfect day. It was a perfect day. Okay, so I did have like a little correction.
Oh yes,
section, but it's nothing too much. It's really just to kind of discuss. I know we talked about the Child Life team at Nemours, and I was telling Kristen that Leslie Summers, NICU nurse, who her son Declan was a patient at Nemours with kidney cancer, but now he's cancer-free in remission. Mm-hmm. She reminded me that these duffel bags and things that are provided are actually usually from organizations. Great example, the Legos for Live.
Yeah, that we talked about last week.
Yeah, they're not given by the Child Life team. They're donated by Legos for Live. And typically, like the social worker for your child or the Child Life team will deliver that. Mm-hmm. So it's not the Child Life team giving everything to them. They might just be the transferor. Yes. But usually things that are delivered, like the duffel bag was a different organization that donated this duffel bag.
Mm-hmm. With the iPad.
With the iPad, yeah. And I think Leslie said like they had literally like she was like, we don't want this to the social worker. Like we cannot accept this. And they were like, we have a storage closet of these duffel bags. Like they want us to give them to every child. Yeah. And she was like, okay. Like, so they're always donated typically by like another organization. Like the Legos for Live or
Baby Colin and Little Peter.
Correct. Baby Colin, Little Peter.
Yep.
I think when we were in the NICU, we got a package from Baby Colin, Little Peter, and like today is a good day. Mm-hmm. And our social worker would deliver them. So I just wanted to kind of make that, the dragon, just connect or that connection that, it's not always just the Child Life team, but usually a bigger scale.
And which is why it's so special to donate to things like that. Like it means so much for people and for the families. I mean, we know directly by just getting gifts like that. And we were there for a very short time. There are people that are there for months and months and months, sometimes years. So if you ever have an opportunity to give to an organization like that delivers presents to kids in the NICU or the PICU, please do so. I think it's wonderful. Pick whatever. There's tons of them out there. Pick whatever one that tugs on your heartstrings. But it is really, really, really sweet
when you see those like toy drives.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But I do feel like I would always like give toys or do things, obviously within your means. Mm-hmm. And some people aren't fortunate enough to be able to. But I think like being in the experience that we've been in, it totally changed every like feeling that I have about everything. Yeah. So, any way that you can just make a kid smile is what we need.
Exactly.
Okay. So before we get into the episode, should we do our Angel of the Week?
Yes, I would love to do that.
Yes. And Kristen and I were talking that we think, some viewers might relate to this Angel of the Week. I don't know how to say it, but more people might have delivered a child prematurely, and that happens a lot more than you would want it to. So I think every story is unique and different in its own way, and this story is really interesting. First off, it's personal to me. This is a friend of actually Doug's. It really started through Doug.
Yeah.
His friend Tim. They worked together, and he's from New Zealand, and Ashlyn, his wife, is from here. And they met, I think, at like a summer camp or something. Like they were both counselors or something, I think. And they met, fell in love.
Must have been the accent.
Oh, yeah. It is a nice accent. It's very, very nice. And it's so soft-spoken. It's just really, really sweet. And they met and decided to get married, start their family. They've since moved from Delaware to New Zealand. So they're living there full time.
Crazy.
Yeah, just packed up and off they went. But we are going to talk about their angel, who is Grace. So should we get started?
Let's do it.
All right. So first things first, they called the baby, her name was Grace, who our angel is, but they call the baby Guppy, which is their last name is Guptill. So they call the baby Guppy. So if you see me referencing or saying like our little Guppy, it's talking about their baby Grace. So, all right, here we go. Tim and I conceived Grace through IUI and were so excited in the early weeks of pregnancy to share with friends and family. Once we were at 22 weeks, the curveball started to come. We began the week with a routine OB appointment and some observed swelling on Monday. By Friday, I had significant swelling, excruciating headaches, and extreme fatigue that led me to being admitted to the maternal ER. My first memory at the hospital was waking up and seeing multiple bewildered doctors staring at me. They informed me the chances that both of us dying from a delay of care were pretty high. Directly after, I remember closing my eyes, feeling an overwhelming sense of peace and, of course, exhaustion, and trusting the process. In that moment, I accepted that I did everything I could to protect us up to that point and needed to trust that the doctors would do everything in theirs to keep us going. To have life growing inside of me and to be extremely close to death on the outside is an incredible paradox. Also, I've had chills reading this. Literally, I've had chills the whole time I'm reading this. The last discussion was the first of many courageous conversations that we would have over the next 10 days. My diagnosis was severe preeclampsia, which is rare to happen at that stage of pregnancy. My body was shutting down and my health was failing in multiple areas, yet Grace was still living and thriving inside of my hostile womb. Our care team created a plan for induction, backup plans for emergencies, and we wrote our goal of 24 weeks, the age of fetal viability. We wrote that on the dry erase board in the room. Keeping things stable for our daughter was a daily, dangerous struggle. I retained very few magnesium memories from this period, but knew that getting one day closer to 24 weeks and meeting our guppy was all the motivation I needed to hang on. There came a point when we all decided that it was time to attempt to safely bring her into the world. The room was filled with love and support. The induction started and my body labored. We made it to 23 weeks and 5 days and fell just short of our goal within good reason. I only remember one moment, which was the most important one. The moment when Guppy entered the world at 4:44 a.m. on April 20th, 2017. She arrived in spectacular fashion within a beautiful in-call sac. We learned later that birthing an in-call sac is an incredibly rare experience occurring in less than 1 in 80,000 births. In-call is a term used to describe the birth of a fetus and placenta entirely encased in an unruptured amniotic sac. If you've never seen it before, you should really look it up. It's just like a marvel.
It's like women's bodies do this and make this, and then
you should look it up.
It's insane. Magical.
So it's in-call, ENCAUL, SAC, SAC. Some cultures and traditions believe that in-call births are spiritual or even magical. We like to think that Guppy was born pure magic and sent from above. Within that sac was our sweet babe and the placenta, their lifeline, and the very thing that was causing all the chaos for myself. The sweet Guppy, our small wonder, was Grace, who undoubtedly saved my life that day. Grace carried me there, and by grace I would carry on. Time stood still, and our Grace was born still. We still loved on her fiercely and always will, and she still matters and always will. We felt the love from near and far, made lifelong connections with our healthcare heroes who are now members of our family. And honestly, we are just trying to figure out how to live without Grace in our arms, one bittersweet day at a time. We continue to honor Grace's legacy by sharing love with others through giving, creating, and celebrating, giving back to organizations that helped us and will continue to assist others during the most challenging time of their lives. Grace has led us to each chapter since her arrival. We're always missing, loving, and celebrating our endless, boundless Grace. So that is Grace Guptill, our Angel of the Week.
Wow.
Whew.
What a crazy story.
Yes.
And wait, so you also have to add Ashlyn and Vera now.
Okay, yes. So
there's more to the story.
There's more to the story now. So after they had Grace, the doctors were like, you should not carry a child. Like the chances of this happening again are very high. So we don't recommend you doing this again.
Yeah.
But they wanted to start their family. So what they did was they actually have the chills still. They found a surrogate who actually is Tim's sister. So they did the whole process.
Wow.
So Grace was an IUI baby. So she was conceived through IUI. So then once all that happened, they went through the process and then took their sperm and the egg, fertilized it, and then Tim's sister carried the baby.
So crazy.
And she since has carried another one, healthy. So they have Vera and Jack now. And Vera's
Tim's sister did two?
Has had twice. She has like 3 kids of her own. She's in New Zealand. She had like 3 kids of her own, and they were like grown. Like the youngest was maybe like, I don't know, 7 when the first one was born. I forget. Like they were grown children, so she carried both for them.
What an amazing human.
Yeah. But she had to be in New Zealand. Like she came here for the transfers, went to New Zealand. And so
during the pandemic.
So they had Vera during the pandemic. And they had to like go to New Zealand and were quarantined for like 2 weeks in a hotel, and they couldn't leave. You got off the plane, you went right to this hotel. Everyone in New Zealand was like bused to different areas, and they had like 0 COVID cases, I think. Because they just let you come in, and then they walked out without a mask. It was just like, okay, like we don't have COVID, we're good.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so they had the baby over there and then brought her here.
Yeah.
And then when Jack was being born, their baby, who was just born, I think he was a little after summer, they went over there and they just stayed.
That's awesome.
Before he was born, I guess. So
it's also a testament to, even after continuing to go through a grieving journey like this, like there's still goodness in the world. There's still like, it makes me tear up just thinking about it. But I just remember a time when I thought, I'll never have another child. I could never go through this again. And then shortly after being ready to have a baby in my arms and to have that feeling is not only what it was a part of my healing, but just knowing like there's still good things in the world. You will still smile. You can still have your family if you try. There are different things you can do to make your family whole, whether it's having another child, adopting a child, adopting a pet, like anything that you can do. There's still goodness, even though you're grieving. And I think that like just her perseverance, and then Tim's sister to carry their children for them. It's just so wild and beautiful.
Yes. And Ashlyn and Tim, like after when summer passed, Ashlyn is always sending me like different pages of different like organizations, and there was the like Remembrance Walk on October 15th, and she had put August and Summer along with Grace as butterfly. Like you could not like you could put a baby's name, so it was Walk a Mile or something. So she put up the butterflies for the girls. So she's always doing really nice things and sharing organizations that we had no idea about.
Yeah. She's a great resource.
For sure. All right, so let's take a break.
Yeah.
And then we'll be right back.
Cool. We're back.
Thank you, Surfside. And sorry for my microphone being off. Now I probably sound a lot better.
In your ear. All up in your ears.
If my brother were here, he'd be like, turn her microphone off. Because brothers are bullies and mean.
They are.
I know you have too.
I have too. And yes, they were mean. But they're fine now.
They're fine.
I love being an adult.
They can still be mean.
Yeah, they can still be mean. Sure.
Yeah.
But not in a long time or I'll beat them up.
Yeah, I'll just like hurt you really bad and tell my mom.
Brothers just to then tell my mom, yeah. My mom will take care of it.
Yes. Tell mom, okay? Yeah.
All right, let's get into the next episode.
Yes.
Section.
Let's get into the next section. All right, so let's talk about going out in public.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your take first because you're so fresh.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, I don't know, you know how I just feel like you saw it backhand. Like you were like, oh, this is what Kristen was going through. So a lot of like how you feel and are going through is what I went through as well.
Okay. So I remember I talked about this, I think on the first episode when we went to Target the next day.
Oh yeah.
So we went to Target and I just was like, Penny was there. We kept her home from school and we were just like zombies. Just like we like sat in the car with like Doug and I like didn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
We're just like, and if it was only talking of Penny, it was like talking to us or needed something. Like you just give all your energy to whatever in that moment. And that was Penny for us.
And thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we went to Target and I just like remember like walking around being like, somebody's going to say, are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's going to say it, like my bleeding out. Like somebody's going to see me just bad.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody said anything. And I texted you and I was like, I just went to Target and it feels so weird being out in public. Yeah. First off, because we were in the NICU for 41 days. I did not go anywhere. Yeah. I went NICU, Penny's daycare, home.
Yeah.
Like I didn't do anything. We went to dinner one night, just me, Doug, and Penny. My mom stayed at the hospital that night. We went to dinner. But other than that, like that was it. So going out in public after 41 days, it was kind of like you were like quarantined or something.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like people are staring. And then we went to lunch and just sat outside and I feel like you can see it if you know. Like if you know what that person went through, you can just like see it in their face.
Mm-hmm.
But we were driving and I remember we were like almost to like one of the roads where this the funeral home was. And I remember being like, oh my God, Summer's in the funeral home, like there. But I think this is like really sad, but it's something that really I know you didn't have to do this because Baby Con Little Peter Foundation handled it.
Mm-hmm.
But that next day they sent over like a cremation authorization to cremate Summer. And I was like, Doug. And so I clicked on it and it was like her name, all the information was kind of filled out. And I started to like initial like, okay, her name's Summer James. Yes. And it was like 5 weeks and I just shut it off. I was like, ugh. And I was like, that like was hard just seeing like 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I know with August, it probably said 12 days.
Yeah.
Or like 1 week.
Yeah.
Because she was 12 days. Yet they would only put, Summer was 5 weeks, 6 days. So they did 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
August was 1 week, 4 days, 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Something like that. So it was just so hard when I got that email. And Doug was like, look, like, we don't have to do it right now. I think we ended up doing it the Monday. So she died on a Wednesday. I think we actually did it that weekend. Doug had to do it though.
Yeah. Keith filled out all the paperwork, like initial, like forged my signature on everything. I didn't see any documents like that.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, so Doug handled all of that. And then like the funeral, the coroner, whatever, was like, the funeral director emailed me and was like, hey, Sarah, today's the day. No, hey, Sarah, we're cremating Summer today. Do you want her clothes? And I was like, Doug, I didn't plan. Like, I was like crying when I said it, and I'm going to talk about it like sort of plainly. But I was like, Doug, like, I didn't think I was going to, sent her the way that I thought. Like, do I want her clothes back?
Yeah. You're like rethinking all
Yeah.
the decisions that you've already made.
And Doug's like, no, Sarah, like, that's the way she wanted to be with her little sister outfit and her little blanket. Like, no, we don't need it back.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like, it's those questions that people pose to you. You're like, oh my gosh, like, should I, like, what?
Yeah.
So I think things that are just like always going to be popping up, especially in the beginning when you're in public. And our friends Paul and Marky, they had gotten us tickets to go to the Phillies home opener. So that was that Friday. So she passed the Wednesday. Friday was the Phillies home opener, and we go every year. So they got us tickets. And when we were at the game, I went to the bathroom and I got an email from the Child Life team member, Melanie. And she was like, hey, Sarah, here's Summer's heartbeat. I fixed it. So like if there's no thing in it. And of course I'm like, I have to listen to this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm in the bathroom just like crying, listening to this at the Phillies game. So I think there's so many things that just sort of recur as you're like grieving, especially in those initial first days. And then when we got home from the Phillies game, there was a box of things from hospice, not hospice or like one of the cares, because we were home so quickly, like nothing got canceled in time. So like there were still things being delivered to the house.
Yeah.
You're still, even now, like I know you get stuff too. Like you're still getting phone calls from like insurance. And I'm like, she's not here anymore. Like, what do you need from me? Do you need something from me?
Yeah.
Please remove me.
Yeah. Please remove me. Exactly. I always get like mail to the parents of August Grace Carrier. And I'm like, what is this?
You
like,
sent this to the wrong address.
Why are
you need to send this to heaven above.
Yeah.
This is not where she lives.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, being public, those first few days were just absolute hell.
Yeah.
And I think it definitely does get easier. But when in the beginning, we went to like birthday parties for my niece, and I just was kind of like, just would stare off in the corner. Mm-hmm. And like, you could just see, like my mom always was like, you could just see that you're just not, and for rightful reasons.
Yeah.
You're just not, the light of Sarah was so dim and just needed to be found.
And I remember in those early days too, like, then we did Easter and stuff like that. But in those early days, you were like, it's that question of, am I grieving enough today? Mm-hmm. Like, am I being sad enough today? And you had kind of mentioned that fear, like, am I not doing enough for her today? And I was like, listen, you look different. Like in your eyes, you can tell there's some trauma there. Yeah. And you were like, really? I can't see it. And I was like, no, you can't see it. I couldn't see it in me.
No.
But when I saw you afterwards, I was like, that's what I looked like.
Yeah.
Because I saw you and I was like, I felt that exact, there's something that's missing behind your eyes for a long time.
Yeah. And I didn't see it until we went out to dinner with Josh and Kaylin. And I saw it. Jackson had just passed away maybe like 2 weeks before. And man, they just saw it. And I saw it in both their eyes, actually. And we got in the car and I was like, Doug, their faces, that's exactly probably what we looked like. Like Kristen described it. Like I saw it in you, you saw it in me, and then I saw it in them. I was like, wow.
Yeah. It's like kind of like a terrifying, terrible feeling because you're just so aware of your emotions. And I would say like, it's like you have like a big pimple on your face. You've got like a big like Rudolph nose, like, and you think everyone is staring at you because they are in the early days. People who know. Yeah. In the early days. Yeah, for sure. And I would take like what I call like sad walks, like around the neighborhood. And I would just wear some big sunglasses and I would just cry. Cause every song, whether it was a nice song, hip hop song, like something like, oh, I listened to this like the one day going to the Nikki, like
Every
everything.
love song can be a song about August and a song about
Yeah.
summer, a song about anybody who's like past. Like
Right.
Lover by Taylor Swift, that could easily be about summer to me. Like,
Yes.
this is
your brain is just in this mode of just trying to pull anything to connect it.
Yep.
And so I would just cry and cry and cry.
Can you tell the Wawa story real quick, please?
Oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing, but yes, I will.
Okay, thanks.
So I went to get pizza for the family the one day, and I walk in and there's this younger gentleman. And when I say younger, like he's like maybe 14 or 15.
It's like his first job. He had to get working papers.
Yeah, like not even sure if he should actually be working or not, but I think his family owns the place.
Oh.
But I go in to like pick up the pizza, and he was like, oh, you're that sad lady from Wawa. And I was like, no,
I think you must be.
I was like, no. And he goes, no, you go to the Wawa on this road, right? Like he's like saying where I go to my Wawa. And I was like, yeah, I do go to that Wawa. And he's like, I always see you there. And you're always crying or something. You got tears in your eyes. And I was like, oh, first of all, rude. But,
Yeah.
And then I was like,
but that's
you
me.
know what? That is me. Yes, it is me.
Do you have a pen? I can sign your pizza box.
Exactly. But I was probably always just listening to a song that like made me upset or made me cry, made me think of her. And then I go into Wawa to get my coffee, and then there's a little pipsqueak kid over there like, man, she's so sad. I wonder. But it's that stupid thing of like, you never know what somebody's going through. Like that doesn't like that whole saying never sat well with me until I went through something. And then I was like, dang, you're right. Like, and there's a point where you just want to scream. You just want to scream. Like, why aren't you asking me in Target? Why aren't you asking me if I'm okay? Why aren't you asking me about my daughter to strangers that you don't know, people that would never know, that honestly don't care? Why? Like, you just want to shake people. Like, ask me about my daughter because she matters. And I just want you to know about her. I want to talk about her.
And you also think in that moment, you're the only person that's going through this.
Yeah.
You're like nobody you think, I mean, there's millions, not millions, but other people are feeling grief. So you're walking around this Target and you feel this way, but you're in the back of your mind, you're like, somebody else in here is probably just equally as sad in some sort of other way. I always think about this, and I think it was maybe one of Keith's sisters. I don't remember which one. But didn't one of them say to you that after August died, you became the best version of yourself?
Yeah.
I think about that a lot.
Yes. Yeah, because I think it was Courtney, and she had said like, I had always seen like Keith as the like caretaker of the house, somebody who's overseeing the house and like, you know, being like the, you know, the strong, stable one.
Yep.
But she said like once she had seen me after August, she saw it like not flip, but she saw my power and my presence and resilience stand out. And then she was like, wow, like this is kind of the person that she's always meant to be. And that's so special to me that she saw that in me. Like, first of all, it's just a very like selfless thing to notice in somebody else, because it can be so subtle and it can be, others would never notice that. Yeah. But you have to kind of be in the home or just be close enough to someone to see it happen.
Agreed. And it changes. We say this all the time. Like, it changes everything. Like when we were at Disney and I saw, you know, like the handicap, you know, sections, or like handicap enter here, or like when we were at a show and like handicap gets the front and you see these kids in wheelchairs, like you're so humbled by what, like, and for me, I think, you know, that could have been, you know, our life with Summer. If she was having seizures, like she would never probably walked. So like we would have been in that situation, and you feel for like that whole family, they're at Disney World. Like, this is an amazing place to be.
Yes.
But I think like the place in my heart comes from like a place of understanding to some degree. And before, I might not have been, I would have cared. I would have been like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like,
yes.
But it's a different sentiment. You're just everything in life feels just a little bit different.
It's a different level of understanding, a different level of empathy, of sympathy. It's all encompassing. It changes you completely for the better, even though you don't feel better.
Yes. And you educate other people through doing this podcast, or even our family members are different just because they know what we've gone through with our children, like and they're obviously their family as well. So they're different, So I think it's the suckiest way to be changed for the better.
Yes, for sure. In the early days, and you're still in your early days, oh my God, but like in the first couple of months, I felt so selfish. And I can't even remember who I was talking to about it, but they were like, be selfish right now. I remember, and I think I even said this to you. I said, yeah, that person's probably hurting, but they're not hurting as much as me because my baby just died. You know what I mean? Did you ever feel that? Like, I feel like it's such a selfish way to feel, but like, that's how I felt. Like,
yeah,
F you and your problems and your petty BS. Like, I've become so much less petty about dumb stuff because I'm like, look what just happened to me.
Yeah, and I agree 100%.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And what was the other? I think our neighbors had said, like, I repeat it myself all the time. Like, I had a script in my head of stories that I could say. Like, I would go in my friend, we went to a friend's house, not our neighbors. And I went in the bathroom, which is so unlike me. I went in the bathroom just because I knew I was going to be left alone with the wife. And I needed like 3 things to talk about. So I went in the bathroom and was like, all right, I'm going to ask about how daughter's doing in school. I'm going to ask, like, are they joining the pool this year? And I'm going to ask if they like have any vacations planned. So I went in the bathroom. I was like, these are what I'm going to talk about.
Oh my God.
So I went out there. And so when it was like dead, I would just like, okay, you guys have any vacation plans?
Just to fill the space.
Because I didn't know, like, normally, and I could do it now, but normally I could just be like,
off the rip, yeah.
Yeah. But in my mind, I was like, I only know like these last 41 days. So I don't know what else to talk about, like what's been going on.
That's so selfless of you to do that, even. Like, I would have just sat there in silence. Yeah. But seriously, but you are a really good conversationalist and you do come up with really good questions. I'm like, Sarah's so thoughtful in the questions that she asks. Always. You've always been like that. So the fact that you went into the bathroom and like prepared questions to ask, that is just so you to do that. And good, like, you got out of bed that day.
Yep.
And that's all you needed to do. You didn't need to come up with 3 questions to ask.
Yes. But I felt like I needed to, just because it was a glimpse of like the old, like not a glimpse, but I was like, all right, what would old Sarah do? Yeah. So I'm like, how do I do this? And this is a perfect segue into our next question, or our next topic that we wanted to talk about with going back to work. Cause I went back to work July 10th. She died on April 5th. So I went back July 10th, but I was off, from February till July 10th. And I worked with my therapist because I said the one thing, and like I could cry thinking about this, I say, the one thing that made me good at my job, I don't have right now.
Yeah.
So I'm in onboarding. So all the new hires that come in, I'm their happy smiling face that they see. Hey, welcome.
Yep.
And that's not me right now. And I said to my therapist, I'm like, that's the one thing. And she kind of helped me get in this direction, but she's like, the one thing that you feel that you don't have that made you good at your job, that's what you're like, just know. She's like, I think you're funny. Like, my therapist was like, you are funny.
You are
like,
funny.
You make me laugh. So I still see like that light and that spark in you. So we worked on that kind of, all right, when I go back to work and I get a new hire that comes in and they ask me, like, we're just talking casually and they ask me like, oh, like, do you have like children? Or, you're starting all of these like conversations because I'm meeting people every day who don't know my life. Right. I have my coworkers, but I'm meeting all of these other people who have no idea what I've just gone through.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, I just have to put my mask on. So I'll let you kind of segue into your story of like going back to work.
Yeah. I took like 6 months off and I worked at QVC and they were just amazing. I had just gotten a new boss. So right before I left for maternity leave, I got a new boss. They were transitioning out of that. And so Kelly, her name's Kelly. She didn't know much about me in my personal life, but she knew I went through this thing, and she's a mother of 4. So she was just, and always has been, just so graceful and so kind and supportive. And when I came back, I was like, would you mind, like, because QVC, the studio is where I worked. It's a small but big family. There's lots of people, but you all are in each other's space so much that I was like, can you just send an email and just kind of people that don't know, can you please just tell everyone? Because the last thing, I was like ready to go back to work, but not ready to, like, because I wanted to jump back in and like do my job. I loved working there and producing and doing everything that I was doing, but I didn't want people to ask me, how's your baby? Because they all knew I was on maternity leave. Yeah. And so
this was before you came back to work?
Before I came back, I asked them to send an email. And so they did. They sent like a company-wide or department-wide, multiple departments, but, and people knew. But then there was like, some that slipped through the cracks. And so like, I remember maybe a week after I'd come back, and I had a big Rudolph nose on my nose when I came back, and everyone was like, how I say, like, eyes looking at you, like, oh, are you okay? And I just want to be like, I'm fucking fine.
Yep.
Let me just work. And by that, I mean, I'm not fine. I'm dying inside, but like, stop looking at me like that. Like, just give me a hug and let it go. And that's another thing. Like, every hug I got, I just immediately, like, I can think about, just cried and cried and cried, because when you work as closely, especially at QVC, I just feel like people are family there. Because you're going through the trenches making live TV.
Yeah.
But I just remember like a week after I'd come back, one of the models was like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you since you left for maternity leave. And I'm like, she didn't read the email. She didn't get the email. I'm seeing it happen like in future time. And I'm going like this, like, don't ask. I'm like, start shaking my head. And she's like, how's your baby? And I was just like, boom, like on the studio floor, just bawling my eyes out. And she was like, and she's a mom too. And she was like, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. And I'm like trying to like tell her this story.
Oh yes, of course you gotta say her name.
So I'm like trying to tell her the story, and I disappeared after that. And she came back a day later, and she was like, I'm so sorry. She's like, I love you. Blah, blah, blah. I talked to other people about it. Like, you don't have to talk about it. And I was like, no, it's fine. You just go through the motions. Like, you're so fragile. I'm still fragile. I still find those moments 2 years later of being so fragile. Like, one moment somebody can say something to me, I'm like, God, that one really hurt me. That hurt. And instead of just bawling in front of their eyes, I'll like go away and cry. Or I'll wait until the evening and think about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you'll go to Wawa.
Yeah, go to Wawa.
After the kids go to bed, go to Wawa.
But you're in such a fragile state, and you feel so out of your body, and it feels so wrong, but that's what you have. That's your body's like response to going through grief.
Yeah.
And I think I still do. I internalize a lot of my grief, and I don't think that's wrong per se. I think it can be unhealthy to some people, but I feel like I'm doing a good job at internalizing it. I'm just not doing a good job of like, when I do explode or I am having a bad day, of vocalizing like, hey, I'm having a bad day because of this and this and this. And it all stems from like my grief of, losing my daughter. So I don't think like being internal is wrong. I just think that you have to like find healthier ways to like on the back end being like, I might explode here in like a couple of weeks. And like my tide was just in recently, and I told you that it had been in since my birthday. My October 11th was my birthday. It's been in since then, and it's actually finally going out. But like my birthday came up, and then Halloween, and I'm seeing all these little girls in like princess costumes and pigtails and makeup, and it brings everything back up. So it's not getting easier. And I don't think it ever will be easy, because as kids grow, then I know August should grow. And this is what she'd be doing now. So, yeah. And if I was talking about this maybe 3 days ago, I would have been falling. But my tide is going out, so that's good.
It's always just what could have been.
Yeah.
So
And I think, like I always say, like just waking up is enough. And if that's what you're doing in your grief journey right now, if you're just waking up and getting out of your bed, you're doing a great job. Like being in public is not expected of you at any point in time. So you're doing a great job. And I can't imagine like losing a partner, losing a parent at this point. Like we lost Keith's dad a couple years ago, and like that was tough. That was so tough. And for him to like wake up every day and be fine and go to work.
Be fine.
Yeah. Right.
So
it's a lot.
Let's take a quick break. We'll come back, answer some questions, or not answer some questions, read some of our answers to our question, and then we'll wrap up.
Sounds good.
All right, cool.
Welcome back.
Thank you, Surfside. Cheers.
Cheers to you all. I hope whatever you're doing right now, watching or driving or doing chores, you're having a great time.
Yes. I'm sure they are. All right, let's get into what was our question?
So we asked people on our Instagram this week, how was your experience? Tell us about your experience of being back in public after your major loss. So like what surprised you? Like just a story. Tell me something that is different, something you didn't expect.
Like my Target trip.
Yeah. Yep. And I just feel like I had so many, I had so many weird things happen to me. And, but you're also internalizing a lot of it because you're going through something and you feel like you're in a bubble.
Because nobody knows.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're like, why doesn't everyone know?
Yeah.
But like,
and why is the world still happening?
This person doesn't know what
why are you guys working right now?
Yeah, exactly.
What's going on here?
Yep. But I thank you everyone who did respond. We always love responses and reading them.
Yes, we do. This person said, what surprised me is when I went to the grocery store, a produce worker recognized me and then asked how my baby was, which is crazy. Like, especially if you're going to the same place every day.
Yeah. And that person's not in your circle. And if you're not going to the grocery store.
Yes. Which something like that did happen to me. One of my neighbors, so thank God for good neighbors, but the Jennings, Angie and Dave, who used to live next door to us, were literally, I could get choked up just talking about them, but they're like a safe space for us. And
good people.
Just really, really good people. And they were like our shield in the neighborhood. They like kind of spread the word to the people that didn't know. And they are just such a safe, like just a safe place for us to be. And one of the neighbors came up to me and didn't know and was like, actually went up to Otto and said, I heard that you have a baby brother or sister. Where are they? Mm-hmm. And actually Angie and Dave's daughter, Alex, who was young at the time, maybe 7, was like, no, don't talk about it. Their baby passed away and they don't want to talk about it.
Oh. Yes.
And I just like walked away. I didn't even say anything to the neighbor. I just walked away. I was like,
what she said.
Perfect. I was like, that was perfect.
That's what I want to say.
I was like,
but now this 7-year-old just said it.
Yes, but they were like my shield. Their whole family, like they totally helped us spread the word, along with other people, the Sandoras, and they all just like helped.
But at the grocery store, you can't.
No, and stuff like that happens all the time.
Yeah.
This person said that they struggled again at a food shop or grocery store when they saw that things. They say that like this serves 2, or a menu that says shareable items. You don't think that something like that's going to trigger you, but it can. Actually, this came from my mother-in-law, and I can say that because I know she'll be okay. But she talked about seeing the pain of my child going through their loss, like that.
Keith,
that hurt. Like she lost a grandchild, and that is really, really sad. And then on top of that, she's watching her children grieve that loss of their kids, and that is surprisingly just as hard as the initial loss.
And I say that all the time is like when Summer was really sick and having her seizures, it was like I always say this, it's putting in her glass box. It's like picture your child being put in a glass box and watch them be tortured. That's what it was like watching Summer have seizures. Then when she died, it was a more, now it's a personal torture for me.
Yeah.
So now my mom and dad and Doug's family and Keith's family and anybody who's lost somebody, now they're watching us in our glass box be tortured because we're being tortured because our children, passed away. So that's something I always think about, that I know it's just as hard for the grandparents, because they not only lost the grandchild, but they're watching us in this glass box being tortured, and there's nothing you can do.
And then your best friend loses their child, and then you have to watch her in her glass box go through what you just went through.
And you're still in your glass box.
And I'm still in my glass box. And then our friends, Michelle and Brittany, like, that are all friends with us, like people that are friends with both of us.
Yeah.
Like, it's just
who are having babies and like
multiplying. It's all multiplying.
So, yeah. But yeah, so that's a great one to call out for grief.
Yeah. This person said that they were just like losing it at work, like just bawling their eyes out, and their boss came up to them and said, like, "Hey, I think you should go home." And she didn't even realize that she was crying. That she kind of like, her friend like looked at her and was like, "You just need to go home." And she was like, I was just crying, and I was just sitting there typing away at work and not even realizing that I was crying. And
I was in a whole different space.
Another person said they felt disassociated from reality, which is kind of how I felt for a really long time. They had daydreams of being alone in a room just screaming. Their quick decision making was really bad, and that was like what they needed to use for their work. So that was tough. And then they said that they were surprised that people acted like nothing happened. Some people did. I think for men, especially when it has to do with losing a child, I think that is a lot of times their experience, because men don't, and we talked about this a little bit last week, but men don't really talk about their feelings as much or talk about things. It's like, where's the details? Like, what's happening? And it's so their friends and the people that are at work with them, they just act like nothing has happened because they just assume like, they probably don't want to talk about it anyway. So and that might be true.
It's hard because I think if the narrative was flipped, and I think if more people ask, do you want to talk about it? They would be like, it would be a normal. Like for us, it's normal to talk about it. For them, it's not normal.
Yeah.
So they don't do it. So it feels weird.
And I don't think like if somebody went up to Keith at work and was like, "Hey, like, do you want to talk about it?" He would be like, "No, I don't." But I think he would also say like, "But thank you for asking." You know what I mean? Because like he doesn't want to talk about it outwardly, especially at work, but for someone to ask and to be concerned and show like some empathy in that moment, I think he would thank them for it. So sometimes all it takes is just that little like, "Hey, I'm here to talk if you want to talk." That's all you have to say. So yeah, that was a bulk of our responses there. Thank you guys once again for responding. I know everyone has a different experience of how they grieve and their debut back into public and going back into work. And it's tough, whether it's your child or your parent or a sibling. Especially, I always go back to Liv from our Angel of the Week last week, like someone who's been around for years and the memories that you have, like it's tough. There's got to be so many things that remind people of their loved ones on a constantly. And it's just so hard. So you did a good job by waking up today. If you are grieving, thank you for waking up and listening to us.
Yes. And we're just, all you got to do is put your feet on the ground in the morning. Great job.
Yeah, you did it. You got up.
Yeah, I would always send Kristen pictures. I'd be like, the only thing I did today was light a candle. And she'd be like, good job.
You did it.
You put your feet on the ground and you lit a candle.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, now I'm just going to go clean my house.
Yeah. Oh, you brushed your teeth?
I cleaned my kitchen every day. That's all I did.
Because that's all you knew to do.
Put on the mute playlist, water my plants, just clean the kitchen.
Do something with muscle memory.
And then that's why it was hard to go back to work, because I'm like, all I know is putting on my playlist and cleaning. And I couldn't, my brain was like, how do I onboard somebody? Like, what? Like, this is tiring.
Does this matter? That's what that's the thought, the recurring thought I had constantly when I went back to work. And I forgot about that until just now. Does this matter? Does this even matter? And because I worked in live TV, I was like, listen, it's gone. It happened. It's done now. Like, let's move on.
Yep.
Because we can't go back in
doesn't
time
matter.
and erase that. It's going to live on the TV and the internet forever now. So sorry.
Yeah. Which is maybe why we're here today.
It is.
So,
yeah. Well, thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you. And this was Good Grief Hugs.
Yes, good grief.
Oh, love you.
Love you too. Thank you guys again.
Yep.
And what are we going to talk about next week?
It'll be a surprise, even to us. Usually it stems from whatever this episode is and kind of what it feels. So thank you for listening to Good Grief.
Yep.
And we'll see you next time.
Have a good day.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.